Headrush had decided that we're going to run a competition at the guitar show to win one, which I obviously entered because I'd like to get a hold of one of these, and I'm Yorkshire enough not to want to lay out any money on anything that I
And
could
did
humanly
you did you
possibly.
apply on my behalf or under your name?
No, under my name.
I don't think that was the agreement.
I think I'll probably be able to lend it you though. The likelihood of winning it, um, but the guys were really nice. I actually went up and I said, look, I want to approach this in two different ways. And the bloke was like, why have I got the feeling that I'm just about to be taken outside and beaten up? And I went, no, 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 don't worry about that. So I asked the punter question first.
Uh-huh.
And the punter question is line six, I've been super aggressive with the Helix on doing updates for it. Um, we also know that Axe Effects, even though it's a ridiculously expensive unit, they have a regular cadence cycle of updates as well. And Kemper's the same. They have a regular update schedule. And Headrush, if I'm missing the point, I'm quite happy to admit it, have been very sporadic with updates. The user interface on the Headrush is miles better than the Helix. The problem with the Headrush is, number one, they don't update the models quite as often as we'd like them to. And number two, he doesn't seem, in inverted commas, to be quite as capable of unit. And the guy was really good because he said, right, we are up to like version 1.2.1 point something. Yep, you're right, it has been quite slow going. But one of the things that we've done that you don't probably know about because it's not the glitzy, glamorous stuff. We've added 30 new cab models, we've put 125 new this, that, and the others in it. Is what they've been working on is the impulse response engine that sits behind the back of it and getting that into a position where it's kind of Kemper stroke Axe Effects quality on the impulse responses. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what they're saying is that they are likely to be doing much more regular updates that introduce new pedals, new amp types, but the capability with the impulse responses is actually a lot better than people think it is. In fact, they believe it's better than the Helix,
Mm-hmm.
a lot better than the Helix. Now, how true that is, I've got no idea because I've never demoed one. I've never been able to get my hands on one to demo one. I have demoed the Helix. I also know that we've got a number of people that we both know that have got Helix. I believe you've got a Helix.
I certainly do. It's right there by my feet, keeping my feet warm.
So the user interface, on the Headrush is, I think, it's light years ahead of the Helix. I think the Helix, when I used it, was really good. It sounded great, but navigating your way through it took a bit of doing. Whereas the touchscreen that they've got on the Headrush, I think, is, realistically, if I were line six, I'd be doing a Helix version 2 that had a touchscreen. Simple as that. Um,
Yeah.
but they were really, really nice guys. The second part of the thing was, by the way, I'm here representing this YouTube channel, blah blah blah. They were really gracious actually because they got clobbered by a question from a punter, followed up by a hi YouTube thing, and they were like, "Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic," because we don't think everybody's had a real proper look at this yet. Yes, when
Mm-hmm.
we launched it with a number of big YouTube people, like so the likes of Ola England and they obviously got Sarah, whose name I forget, over in the States, who's does a lot of ambient guitar stuff. She plays the
Mm-hmm.
Strandberg thing. She's absolutely brilliant. I love her to bits. But very much they launched it with a very, very key number of people that they did it, but they were all, apart from Ola, pretty much everybody else was based over in the States. I don't think we've really had that good a view of it in the UK yet. Um, I think with a lot of new technology as well, I work in technology as my day job. Sometimes it can take a year, 2 years to actually bed stuff in. Now, obviously, the Headrush
Mm.
is, pushing the technology that 11 rack developed for the 11 rack, which I think actually a lot of people thought was okay. It was, very much better than the pod. it was light years ahead of that, but it sort of aged quite quickly. I don't think they actually kept the support up for that product very well. I think they want to do something different with the head rush. I definitely see it as their first shots being fired out. I'm surprised
Hmm.
they haven't done something like Line 6 have done with like the HX
Hmm.
and the Helix LT. I think they just see, no, we've got a platform, we believe in it, we're going to stand by it, and we're going to go forward with that.
Price wise, it's already less than the Helix and more around, I want to say Helix LT sort of pricing. Is that right?
Yeah, it's about the £8,900 mark. I mean, the problem that you've got now is that Line 6 have dropped the price of the Helix, which originally came in at about 12.99. That's now come down to about 900. If you shop around, you can get it
Yeah,
for
I picked
around that.
mine up for £900. I bought mine in the
Yeah,
UK, and I got it for 900, say a grand. And the reason I was really going between, I almost bought the 11 rack, the orange one, a while ago, used, and some people just said it was excellent, and I thought it was worth a pop. Then came the Helix, and I thought, I really can't afford that, but it could be the answer to all my problems with having kids as well as having the studio. Excuse me. But I have had a huge aversion to Line 6, having had the Dream Rig, and it was a complete letdown, an
yeah.
absolute failure. And very upset by that, including the customer support. Then I got bought by Yamaha. That may change a few things. Then the head rush came, and I really didn't know whether to go for the head rush or for the Helix. And I don't know if I took the right advice, but I went for the Helix because people were saying it was regularly updated.
It kind of leads us on to where I'm going next, which is Boss, which were the next people that I went to see. Boss have got the GT 1000 coming out.
Hmm.
Now, at the moment, you can't buy a GT 1000. You can't see a GT 1000. So I met up with Mark at Boss, um, who you kindly put me in contact with. I mean, obviously, I think everybody knows that you've been lucky enough to sort of strike up a relationship very recently with Boss to do an honest review
Yeah.
of the artist. I can tell you, folks, if you don't believe it from Andy, believe it from me. I spoke to the guys at Boss about this, and they were very much, no, we like the style. We like what Andy does with his channel. We want somebody to actually turn around who doesn't work for a shop, who doesn't work for somebody that everybody knows, long built artist relationships with, to do a review of this amp because we will stand by this product every day of the week. Um, and so I can attest to that. Hand on heart, I'm not employed by them. I got literally nothing off them apart from a shake of the hand and a pat on the back as I left. Um, but
Oh,
and a
never
very
washed that hand.
well and a very interesting conversation. But I asked them about the GT 1000. They
Mm,
haven't
mm.
seen one since they were doing some beta work on it before Christmas. They were very lucky they got one in London. They were working on it. Um, I know that Mark's had some input onto various aspects of it as they went through that testing. They do not know until it's right. Um, from what we can tell, and from what Mark could tell me, it very much has all the stuff that the DD500 that's got in it, the reverb version of that unit that they've just released. Is it the RV500? Yeah, so the
The RV, yeah.
RV500, it's got all of that stuff in it, plus everything else that they've done with the Katana and the Katana artist, the way that they've got managed to get those um, models of the way that the stomp boxes work in there are also in the GT 1000. The other thing with it is the way that they've actually designed the amp modeling. The way they've gone about the amp modeling is completely different to the way that they've done it before. They've learned all the lessons that they've now gone through with, the stuff that they learned doing the Blues Cube, the stuff that they've learned by doing the Wazacraft amp, because if you remember back when that was released, 18 months ago now, 2 years ago, um, they're incredibly expensive. They're ridiculously incredibly expensive
Mm.
for what effectively everybody said was a digital modeling amp. Nobody could get their head around why it was that price. And he said, but we wouldn't be where we are now without doing that. That was our effectively dick waving exercise, for want of a better way of putting it. This is them doing a Formula One. The technology you find
Yeah,
in Formula One cars eventually makes it into
precisely.
production line. That's what they wanted to do with the Wazacraft. So the way that they actually model their amps is very different. They go about it from, we are recreating what happens in a circuit on an amplifier. So what they're not doing is they're not
Hmm.
trying to make an amp sound. They're not trying to take a profile of an amp and apply that to something. They're actually trying to model the way that the amp works. So how valves sag, how power supplies have an effect on a valve, all those kinds of things. The deep, dark magic that people like our friend Andy at
Mm.
Honey Boy understands from a valve amp kind of way, they're trying to do that and achieve that in software. They also, the other thing they were saying was, with the Katana and the Katana artist, especially the artist, it's a class AB power amp in there, which is why you're getting the trouser flap,
Hmm.
because I asked about that. Boss, unique in big manufacturers, and I definitely kind of got this sense from them. They are quite an honest company. They're a Japanese company. They have got the ethics of Japanese life, of culture, baked into that company. Um, they wouldn't try and missell you anything, I
Hmm.
don't think. I think they've held their hands up from time to time. I think they've got katana artists, and if what Mark's saying is right, they've got the GT 1000 in a good state. Now, from my point of view, having three really good amp modeling effects units that you can have on it as a do everything pedal board at your feet for under £1,000, well, that's just going to be better, because that makes everybody want to push what they're doing more. It
Yeah,
might even drive the price down a bit.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's a wonderful time to be both a guitar player and a product buyer, a consumer. And the only thing these products can do is, number one, as you say, drive the price down and increase competition, and number two, get better.
So that's the
Is it
it's
fan fretted?
that one is fan fretted. Yeah, they are. That's the base model. So I believe these are being built out of
Hmm.
World Music in Korea. They've now split
Hmm.
their manufacture. They've got like uh, uh, they've got the Korean factory, which is turning out like the low end versions of the Strandbergs now. Same specifications as far as everything's concerned. They're just built in a cheaper place. And then they've got the higher end sort of ones that come in at about 2,000, so roughly double the price, which are the ones that are, built in their
Hmm.
traditional factory.
Hmm.
So they've got a whole boatload of them there, 6 string, 7 string. They've got an 8 string one there. In fact, there seem to be a lot of Strandberg-esque guitars dotted around kind of the second half of the show floor as we went round. Then we headed over to have a look at some Ebenezer's. So, given the amount of love that I seem to have been gushing over the AZ series, which Ibanez have just launched, I firmly believe they are potentially the poor man's Sur, as it was. Well, not even
Yeah,
that poor a
definitely.
man, because they're still coming at just over £1,000 for the entry level models,
Yeah.
but the spec on them's spectacular for that kind of price.
Again, it's its tool. It's a wonderful, reliable tool.
But I took a load of shots of all sorts of different sort of levels. They've really gone heavily into these, burl tops and, strange figured sort of woods. I mean, there's
Mm.
a picture there of a beautiful yellow one that's got like black tiger stripes in it. I think,
Yeah, that's
yeah, I
gorgeous.
mean, I got really up close and personal with that, because the figurine on that top was stunning. There were a lot of people stood around having a look at, they brought pretty much everything like they always do. They'd got
Let's escape.
muscle car orange Joe Satriani. Ah,
Just looking at it now.
you know, I have two problems with guitars: the Joe Satriani models and the Petrucci Ernie Ball ones. And
Hmm.
that got this one just completely spun me out when I first saw it, because am I a person that would naturally buy an orange guitar? Absolutely not. Would I have that one? In a heartbeat. It was stunning.
It's lovely.
Really, really, that colour's great. This is basically it's the Tony Iommi boost pedal that Laney have done. It's part of their Black Country Customs line that they launched about, I think that's a couple of years old now. This pedal's based off an old boost pedal called a Rangemaster. This is their take on it. It's basically they took apart Tony Iommi's one, figured out how it worked, and built him that because the one he had was falling apart, and you couldn't really tour it often anymore. They've been making him this, I believe, for a while, but he had it on in as basically on his pedal board, and that was it. He just had it. They've then gone through this.
So now they've released
Yeah,
it
they've gone through this process
the
of
mere mortals.
releasing it. Yeah, and they had one there. I think they were about 130 quid or something like that. I don't think they were much.
I hate to say that's nothing because it really is a chunk of change, but it seems like nothing when you compare it to other models and other signature pedals.
It was stunning to look at and built like a tank.
It's what I wouldn't know. Hang on, I mean it seems like they could have made it more expensive.
Yes,
that's what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. I think they could. I think even to start off with, I think they had planned to, and I think they've realised actually there's probably quite a big marketplace. The Rangemaster as a pedal is something which a lot of tone chasers go after. It's a bit like the Clon, from that perspective, people want them. This was a damn good job of imitating it from what I can tell. So we've already sort of spoken about Mr. Patrick James Eggle, luthier extraordinaire. They were stellar. I mean, you've only got to look at the finishes on them.
There's one you've taken a close up of. It's the sort of burst one right in the middle with the flame. Now, I'm not much of a flame guy. I'm more of a plain top kind of guy. But there are some flames that just get me. And that one, I don't know if it's the lighting. Is it really as satin as it looks? Is it?
They were all gloss finished, but the gloss it hadn't been buffed within an inch of its life. The grain of the wood, it was almost as if it was literally like a piece of tissue paper between you and the wood.
There's a few quilted
as
well.
The quilt, I mean, everything just pops. It just brought out all the natural beauty of the wood underneath. Unbelievable.
Because I thought it was the lighting, but you can see the lighting on top is shining quite directly, and then on the actual face of the guitar, it's just really subtle, and that's my problem with flame and quilted tops is the lack of subtlety. But that that is nice. That's classy.
Super classy.
And before you went, Paul, you asked me if there was any companies that I wanted you purposely to visit, and there are some obvious ones, but the one that stuck out most was the next one we're going to talk about. This is Stone Wolf.
Oh, right. So there I was taking some video, just walking around the show, and I came across Stone Wolf. On the video, you can clearly hear me say, "Oh my God." I can't kind of get my head around this. So the first picture that you can see there's three guitars, the three very, very different guitars. The one thing that you can see from all of them is the wood is absolutely front and center on each one of them. They are very interesting takes on probably already existing designs. So, for instance, the one on the left-hand side reminds me of a Japanese ESP model, and it's a Japanese, proper only available over in Japan model, and it's the signature model of somebody in some J-rock band. The middle one, apart from the fact it's got a headstock, is more than a passing resemblance to a Strandberg. The one on the right, has definitely got that T-styley kind of thing going on with it.
Yeah.
That slightly offset T. I'll explain this. So this guy starts chatting to me and he said, so we've got this really good guy that sells us wood and he keeps throwing us odd things. So this piece of burl, whatever it is, lands in my lap. There is no way that I can make a guitar body out of that piece of wood in the middle and that chunk that fell off of it in the horn. So what we do is we use this particular resin, which is very different to the resin that you used to see in those sort of plexi clear guitars. Similar, but different, yeah? What we did is we got the resin and then we put the wood into the resin, which bonds with the wood, making the wood infinitely more stronger than it ever was, creates a clear finish pretty much over the top of the wood as well, which you then have to spend about 250 hours of labour to get it to look like that. Same with the necks. Yeah, if you see that neck, the blue colour is actually the resin in the neck, right? They're unbelievable. They are just utterly astonishing. And when you play them, when you actually like strike a chord on it, you can feel them vibrating. The whole thing vibrates. You can feel they're alive.
Well, the thing with these Stonewolf guitars is as I said earlier, I'm not a fan of the quilted or the flame, the over the top, but this is so over the top that it's
all
subtle
of these
again,
woods
almost.
are indigenous British wood. Yeah,
Are they really?
all of them.
Ah.
They're all sourced in the UK. There's no CITES problems or anything like that. It's just that all of these woods are, what's available to them. Okay, so you see there's two different types of wood on the body there. There's the yellow, yeah, and then there's the normal one. They're not glued together. They've actually resin bonded those together. So if you see...
Okay, so that stripe in the middle is the resin.
So if you have a look around the edge, the binding of the guitar that separates the yellow and the brown wood, okay, you can see there's a lighter sort of thing, like a very, very light colour. Yeah. It's not a carve, that's actually the resin. So what they did is they carved the outside pieces of the wood that make the wings, those extreme wings, and then the inside body, which is the very, very dark brown wood, they then put that into the mould, and then they put the resin in on top of it. So if you hold that guitar up to the light, which they did, it glows because the light just comes through it. It's the most...
Yeah, I can see through it.
It's the most incredible effect you've ever seen because it's translucent. It's not clear, it's translucent. So you get this incredible effect.
Paul, you are an absolute legend, trooper, and good friend for doing that for me.
No problems.
I knew you were going anyway, but it was what you've done and what we've had a chat about today is really sort of made me interested and ashamed to say that I didn't go. There's some beautiful stuff there.
There is, and I think there are other opportunities that maybe we ought to explore about what we can do with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think this has been a really interesting experiment for myself and for you. And I might even have a shave next time I come on.
Paul, thank you ever so much once more. One more plug. If you want a t-shirt or mug from the Guitar Geek, then the link is also down below in this video. Meanwhile, I've been the Guitar Geek.
I've been Fletch.
And thank you very much for watching the video. If you've been this far, you're double hardcore, please send us this in the comment. Hot tone.
Hot tone.
No plugging, just it's my favourite word at the moment. It's a new word I've learned. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.